Love, Listen, Talk, Repeat podcast. I'm Wendy Capewell, your relationship specialist, and this podcast is all about things relating and affecting relationships. I'll be interviewing guests who are experts in their profession, learning more about what they do and how they help others. In some episodes, I'll be sharing some insights and tips of my own. So settle back and enjoy. Hello, it's Wendy again, and today I'm going to be talking to Jo Tocker. She is from Life After Miscarriage. I met this lovely lady a few weeks ago at her book launch, but already she invited me to be a contributor to that book, and I was absolutely blown away by that invitation. But I'm not going to talk anymore. I want Jo, come and tell the audience more about you.
Oh, hi, Wendy. Thank you. It's lovely being on your podcast, and so lovely to meet you last week at the launch. Well, about me, I am at the moment, I'm a holistic therapist, miscarriage mentor, and well-being coach. But I wasn't always that. Before that, I was working in the corporate industry in the city, working with their marketing and promotions and events and things like that. So I've had quite a good grounding in that. But then, then I left there and I decided I didn't want to work in corporate anymore. I wanted to do something that was a little bit more meaningful and make a bit of a difference in the world. Yeah. So that's my journey, was how I got into being a holistic therapist, and that was about 22 years ago.
Wow, so lots of experience.
Quite a lot of experience, yeah. And a lot of different modalities. Yeah. Right. So I counted them up the other day. I think I've got about 12 different tools in my toolbox that I can use. So it's very useful at times.
Yeah, definitely. So what is it that led you to working with in this area, miscarriage and pregnancy?
Yeah, that was because when I mentioned to you before, I worked in the city of London. I fell pregnant unexpectedly there, and when I was about just coming up to the 24-week mark, so about 22, 23 weeks, I went in to have a late 20-week scan, and we discovered at that scan that the baby wasn't forming properly, and sadly we had to the baby actually died naturally a few days later after that scan. But so we had to have a termination, and I had to give birth. I had to stillbirth, really. Although officially it's not known as a stillbirth, because I was under the 24-week mark. In the UK, a stillbirth is 24 weeks plus, and I came in at about 23 weeks 6 days. So I'm kind of in that no man's land. It's not really a late miscarriage, and it's not a stillbirth, but they call it officially they call it a late miscarriage because it's not yet a stillbirth. So it's kind of a grey area of of loss, really, and so I was just left to kind of go home and try and heal from that. And you do your best. Yeah. You do your best, and you try to get through it as best you can. And but I felt really different, and I went back to work, and I wasn't me. I didn't feel me anymore, and I didn't have the get up and go that I used to have when I worked in corporate, and it all just seemed a bit shallow and kind of a bit not really fitting me anymore. So I decided to leave. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I just knew I didn't want to do that anymore. And I temped for a little while, and then eventually I came across a magazine and an article which was reading about a woman who used to work in the corporate industry as well, and she left and trained to be an aromatherapist at the Tisserand Institute. And that's when I was reading that article, it was a real light bulb moment. You have those goosebumpy moments, and you sort of get all electric, and the hairs stand up on the back of your neck and things. it was one of those moments, and I just thought, yeah, this is what I want to do.
Fabulous. Yeah, so you decided that's what that started your path.
It started my path, yes. But of course, at that point, and it also started my own self-development. So I went, by when you're training in that sort of area, you do a lot of work on yourself as well. And that's what I needed to do, because I hadn't really done any work on myself. I had a little bit of CBT through my company. They sent me for some CBT. And that was 6 weeks worth. I kind of felt that a little bit ineffectual, really, because it just didn't really hit the sides. And I knew there was a lot more that I hadn't got over or released or anything. So that's all I had done. So when I plunged into the sort of self-development world, that's when I did a lot more of my modalities. And I worked with women at that point. That was my interest, was working with women who were pregnant.
Okay, yeah.
I trained and I did my sort of postgrad in aromatherapy for pregnancy. So was working with women who were postnatal and antenatal, and also did baby massage. So there was nothing to do with miscarriage. I was burying that pretty deep.
You were, weren't you? And when you talked about CBT, I get what you're saying, because I believe it does have its place, but I do think it just has, I really believe until we actually look at that wound, clean it out, just to get a plaster on it isn't going to solve it. And that's what I say. That's the way I view it. If you fell over in the road and you got your knee full of gravel, you wouldn't just put a plaster on it. You'd need to clean out the bits of gravel. You'd need to put some antiseptic on it, and then you would put a dressing on it. But you wouldn't do that straight away, and just because otherwise it festers underneath.
Absolutely.
And this is, and I say, I use parts of CBT, but I use it very discriminatory, because I just feel, I don't see the point. It's just sticking that plaster on, and I don't think that helps. It may for some people in some situations, but I am wary of it. So yes, you did bury that deep, and no one discovered what the real problem was, and that's a shame, isn't it, at that point? But you discovered it yourself. But
I did discover it myself, but it took a long time. It did. It took a lot of different therapies to actually get there, and I think it was when I was training in aromatherapy that I came across the energy healing module, which I hadn't known anything about. I wanted about. Totally fascinating, and through that I met a healer, and I started to go for some healing with him, and that was what was helping release it, from my energy, from my trapped in my body, and things like that. So I soon sort of started to get my head above water and really work on it, and then I was able to get into a place where 3 years later I wanted to get pregnant again and have another baby. Before that I just had shut down on it. So it took me about 3 years really to pull out all those bits of gravel, as you so eloquently put. That's so true. So and then as I changed, I carried on with, because my interest was peaked and I wanted to learn lots of different modalities and things, and did some coaching around wellness coaching too. And it was when I joined the energy alignment method that I discovered more energy work, and that I still had there was one little missing piece of the puzzle that hadn't quite dealt with, which I managed to do through that. And that was around the sort of energy of holding on to the forceps. After my delivery, I was left on the bed with the forceps on for goodness knows how long, too long, way too long. And I consequently, when I went home, so the next day, I then was back in hospital a few days later because I'd contracted a type of sepsis, very, very high temperature, and I was put on antibiotics and everything. And so that was pretty hard.
So did you discover this through the energy alignment method? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I did. And we were talking about that, the energy of those forceps was still there. They were, so I was able to kind of release that as well. And it was during this part that the learning of the energy, when we got to the passion and purpose, my work part of it, that I realized that you had to write your story about the most pivotal point that you'd had in your life and what had given you the biggest light bulb moment. And I thought, well, obviously it's for me when I lost the baby, because then I changed from a corporate person to a holistic person. So I started writing that story. We had to break it down into sort of what was happening around the time, what happened at the time, and what happened after.
Yeah.
So I was reading it through on the way back, reading it back to myself, and it just hit me then. It was a light bulb had gone off again. It was like, oh my goodness, this is so obvious. Jo, you should be working with women who've lost babies. You've been there. You have all, because I also had an early miscarriage at 8 weeks in between my two daughters. So I've had the early experience. I've had the sort of late miscarriage stroke stillbirth experience, and I've had all the holistic experience, all the training. So it all just made sense then, and I just went, oh, this is it. Sometimes it takes you a long time, doesn't it, to really find your niche and your journey. But then you look back and you think, all the things that I've done has led me to where I am now.
Yeah.
And it's all been perfect. When you look back, you can see how it all sort of forms.
Yes, you can, can't you? You're right. And I think that it is, all of those experiences really make us who we are and how we can help others. And I really believe that. And I think if I hadn't been through a lot of the experiences I had in my life, I don't think I'd be anywhere as near good a therapist as I am now. Because it's just, I can feel it, I can hear it, I can sense it, and I can identify with them. And I'm not saying, oh, I know how you feel, but there is sometimes I will share my story and I'll part my story and say, this is what happened for me, and I wonder if that's helpful. And the number of times clients said, that's just so great, Wendy, that you really get what I'm feeling. And it's just makes a difference. And I think the other poignant part that you brought up was that the trauma, not just the trauma of carrying that baby, of miscarrying or the stillbirth. I find it really hard when these things are categorized. For you lost that baby. And also the forceps, all of those are a trauma to the body, but we carry them. We carry them in some way or another. And I'm sure you've recognized that so often with your clients, but people don't always get it. They can't understand how, unless we release it, we carry that trauma around with us.
Oh my goodness, yes. I mean, it's a form of PTSD, really.
Yeah.
And of course, at that time, I don't think PTSD was actually articulated in those days. That time ago, it's becoming more talked about and known about now, isn't it? Post-stress, trauma. But mainly, in the way that I heard it, was through war veterans and people have been those type of things, but certainly not just things that can happen to anyone in life.
Definitely, any trauma to the body.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're holding on to it. So, it's really interesting, and that's why I love the work that I do now. Is the finding out what's stored, what comes out that's stored in the subconscious, and finding, that something that may have happened in their childhood is affecting them today, and the way their experiences and the way they sort of think about things, their mindset, their thoughts, their emotions. All stored there, and with this amazing technique we can release it, and it's just so freeing. It really is. And I've just been working with a lady today, and we're going through a lot of childhood stuff, and she's been carrying that around a long time. She's trying for a second baby now, and it isn't happening. And I can see why it isn't happening, because she's carrying around so much stuff, bless her. And we're working through it, and we're releasing it. And she just walked away. This is the second session I've had now with her, and she's just walked away as I lighter and brighter and happier, and it's just so wonderful to see that you can make a difference in someone's life.
Yeah, it really is. And I think the work you do is amazing, because I think too often in the past, miscarriages were quite dismissed. There hasn't been that support for men and women, you know, both partners. I think men are so easily dismissed as well. You know, well, it's the woman who's going through it. It just, everybody views that loss differently. For some, I think they feel they don't need to visit it. It's not a problem. But for others, it's huge. And I think everybody needs to be respected in the way that they're feeling about it.
Oh, absolutely. And I think men as well, they have, I sort of touch a little bit about this in my book, that men have, you know, they want to be there as the support, and they feel that they're the shoulder to cry, and they need to be there for the support. Physically, they haven't gone through it, so they don't have the emotional or the hormonal or the actual physical symptoms that the woman has. And when we're in that situation as women, that's all we can think about. And we do tend to overlook the men, really. We kind of lean on them, but we kind of often overlook at what they might be going through and what they might be feeling, and they're trying to be strong for us. And it's a really difficult thing, and then not understanding sometimes, because women can shut down, can't they, and they don't want to talk about it, and the men feel a bit shut out as well, as if they're not important too. It's a myriad of different things people
totally.
Yeah. I think it's really important that men must talk about it. They really must try and articulate how they're feeling to their partner and to their friends, because a lot of, you know, guys, when they go out together for a few drinks or whatever, or a round of golf or whatever, you know, they sort of, it's all a bit, I don't know, a bit sort of like, how are you, mate? Everything all right? Oh, okay. You know, it's a bit kind of, it's not deep, is it? It's kind of jocular and fun and things like that. And then, you know, maybe they'll get a pat on the back saying, oh, sorry, mate, you know, better luck next time. And that would be the, you know, the sort of, and I know that's very much a generalization. Of course, not everybody is like that. But if they could actually be heard and be listened to, you know, one guy told me that he kind of did open up to his friends, and he said there were very little support, and he kind of wished he hadn't, because it kind of made him feel worse.
Yeah, I think men struggle a lot. As you say, they're lent on or they're shut out, but they find it very hard to even understand their emotions, let alone articulate them. And I've come across that, you know, years later, where a couple have opened up and said, talked about it. And they've never really talked about it apart from when they're in front of me. And it's been, it was really painful on both sides. Yeah. Because they both had their own feelings, but because protecting each other, not wanting to go there, too scared to get in touch with their emotions, a myriad, as you say, a myriad of emotions. Mm. But they've been holding on to that, and it's really damaged their relationship, because they've never dealt with that resentment or that hurt.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's really interesting. And the part that you wrote in the book, Wendy, that you contribute about relationships was such an important and really helpful piece. So thank you for putting your professional point of view across. It was wonderful. So I think the readers will find a lot of comfort in your words of wisdom.
Thank you for that. And yeah, it was an absolute delight, and you had other contributors as well, and I think it made it such an all-rounded book. I think there's so much in there, just a beautiful book for anyone to read. It is noticing that loss, because loss is a very complicated thing, isn't it? It's not just, oh, well, I feel sad. I mean, all kinds of emotions come up for people when they're going through loss. And I think often with miscarriage, I'm sure you had that experience, and the women you work with, they don't feel that they're allowed to feel that loss because it wasn't a baby. And I think that
that's so true. And whether, you know, and actually they often feel that they're not allowed to feel that loss for long.
no,
Even if they are able to feel it, it's people expect you to sort of get on with it after a short time, and you don't talk about it, you bury it, sweep it under the carpet, and nobody asks you because they feel a bit awkward, and you don't want to bring it up because, again, you know, they're probably sick of hearing about it. It's really a tough area. It's really difficult, and I think these days, you know, in my day, we didn't have support network groups or anything like that. Now there's lots on Facebook, and it's wonderful that they can just all be heard and say what they're feeling, and somebody else will comment and say that they felt the same thing or they felt this, and you know, it's a great support network for everyone.
Yes, and I think that is the biggest thing, isn't it? Being heard and being acknowledged and being told that it's okay to feel those feelings, whatever they are. And they, as I say, you know, the myriad of feelings, and grief, there's no time limit on it.
No.
Unless it goes on to the point that it's self-destructive, you know, for years and years, and you can't get over it and you haven't released it. But how can anybody say, well, you know, you should be over it now? You can't.
No, because you're never going to get over it, really. I mean, it's always going to be there. It's always going to be, kind of grow around it. I think that's what it is. But it's always there, that loss, that sadness, you know, a piece of it, you carry it with you always.
Of course, totally understandable. So I think what you do is just so needed. I think we need to get your name out there and your service out there and your book out there really around the world, because I think there are thousands and thousands of people that really need that reassurance, that help, that guidance, that, you know, how to heal, how to do it. It's just that, what do you do in that situation? There's such a loss that very to act, but they are, you know, lost themselves. They don't know where to go, do they?
They don't know where to go. No, they
no.
don't.
So yes, a brilliant book, and I just attending that book launch, there was so many people there, and all again, as you know, other healers and therapists, and just amazing people who are all there to support you, and I think, you know, we all know how great you are and what you're offering. So
thank you. Yes, I could definitely feel the love in the room. It was definitely there, and it was such an amazing atmosphere.
Wasn't
it? Was
it?
Wonderful. It was just, I was humbled by it. It was just beautiful. It really was. Yeah.
So, is there anything I haven't asked you that you feel that you want to share with people? Is there a kind of, Wendy, I need to talk about this. There's a burning issue that we've really missed.
I can't think of a burning issue that we've missed, but I think, you know, just my sort of lasting message is, if you have been affected by baby loss, pregnancy loss, whatever time of your pregnancy, whether that's early, whether that's halfway through, or whether that's late, is to, you know, don't keep quiet about it. Reach out, look for some help. Either work on yourself, or, you know, look for some books to read, or go and see a therapist that can help you through, because I know how sad and lonely a time it is. And, you know, with the mental health issues that can arise from it, you know, it's not worth sitting on and doing nothing about. It will come out at some point. I've had people come to see me sort of after 30 years when they hadn't addressed it, and, you know, it can fester, it festers, and if you don't do anything about it, it'll come out in a physical manifestation. It'll come out, you know, could come out in sort of mental health issues, lots of different things. So it's really, really important to, even though it's painful, but if it keeps bubbling up, don't shut it down, don't put a lid on it. Please go out and get some help. Just talk to somebody, express your feelings, don't bury it deep.
And I think what I'd add to that, if I may, is find the right person to talk to, not someone who's going to dismiss you, or just sort of say, never mind, you just need to move on, because that will just cause more harm. So it's somebody who choose the person you speak to very carefully, and share it with, so that you feel supported.
Absolutely, yes. And there's a lot of counsellors out there too, and some of them have had the experience of having miscarriage, and some haven't. But if you decide to go down the counselling route, then look for somebody who's had the experience of miscarriage, because they will understand more, like we were talking about before, what you've gone through.
So how can people get hold of your book?
Right. Well, there's a couple of ways. At the moment, it is available on amazon.co.uk. It's called Life After Miscarriage, Your Guide to Healing from Pregnancy Loss. But if you just put in Life After Miscarriage, it comes up. It's available there. The Kindle version will be coming out within the next week, so fingers crossed for that.
Great.
And otherwise, you can buy it directly from me, and there's a link to my website for that, which is www.life-after-miscarriage.com.
Great.
/ the book.
/ the book. Right.
Yeah, it's on there. You'll be able to find it on my website, and I will post it out to you.
Great. And if somebody finds all that a bit much at the moment, because obviously all the details will be in the show notes, but if they just Google Jo Tocker, if they just Google Jo Tocker, which is COTOCHER, then I'm sure they'll find you anyway. They'll find the book.
Yeah. So I'm on Twitter at Jo Tocker. I'm on Instagram as Miscarriage Life After, and I'm on Facebook as Jo Tocker, or Life, and I've got my page as Life After Miscarriage. So I am on all the socials, so you'll be able to find me.
Yeah, okay, that's brilliant. Thank you so much today, Jo, for chatting to me and sharing all about what you do, and a really important work, and about your book. I think it's amazing. So I've really enjoyed talking to you today. So thank you so much for your time and being a guest.
Oh, it's been wonderful, Wendy. Thank you for inviting me on. And I think it's a wonderful service you provide for people. Wonderful and lovely.
Thank you. You take care now. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye.
So you can find all the information about this show in the show notes. And you can find lots more on my website, www.yourrelationshipspecialist.co.uk, including the link to my podcasts, and you can also sign up on my newsletter, which has lots more tips and offers. So until next time, bye for now.